Let's have a look at the implications. Joining us right now, next guest, Victor Kattan, Senior Research Fellow at the Middle East Institute at the National University of Singapore, joining us live there out of Singapore. Victor, pleasure to have you on the program. So we heard from President Trump why he did it. I want to ask you, why do you think he did it?
Well, there's been an act of Congress on the statute books in the U.S. for over 20 years, calling on the U.S. president to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So in one way, you could say he's acting on the basis of that law, although all previous U.S. presidents had signed 6 months waivers not to move the embassy because it would prejudice peace negotiations with between Israel and the Palestinians. So obviously Trump must have reached the conclusion that he could make the move without prejudicing those negotiations, but that's currently what is causing a lot of controversy right now.
I mean, you got to imagine they had a plan to do this. I mean, it's really about the timing, as I guess you alluded to there. You look at the reaction so far, it's very hard to imagine that there is a plan. Just in case, though, and you've watched this develop through years, what do you think that plan is?
Well, it's not clear. I mean, Jared Kushner, President's son-in-law, was speaking to Haim Saban on the weekend, saying that intimating that there was a connection to a wider peace plan that involves Saudi Arabia, but it's difficult to see how, if you like, prejudging one of the final status issues is connected to that. The Palestinians have pronounced the scheme dead on arrival, and even the King of Saudi Arabia warned that Al-Aqsa Mosque was playing with fire in the Muslim world. But it seems to, for some reason, Trump thinks that this could help move the talks forward, although I find it difficult to do so. Although he did leave the door slightly ajar with regard to the issue of boundaries and the final status of Jerusalem, as well as the holy places.
Can you help us understand that? Because he did reserve the issue of a lot of these holy places. For someone who's not familiar with the intricacies here, help us understand that aspect of this narrative.
So the holy places, most of the holy places are located in the old city of Jerusalem, which is on the eastern side of the city that was captured in the 1967 war, and there are there's all different controversies with different Christian communities. There's also between the Muslim and Jewish community over the Temple Mount or Al-Haram al-Sharif. So there's something called the status quo, which Trump said would not be affected. There's also a U.S. Consulate General in the eastern side of the city. He hasn't said much about that, which is potentially interesting because one could envisage perhaps in the future that becoming an embassy to a Palestinian state if one were to be established with a capital in East Jerusalem. So it's not the case that the embassy that will be moved from Tel Aviv will be replacing the Consulate General. So it's possible that there will be 2 U.S. offices in the same city, but perhaps on different sides of the city.